Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Unfold in It's Your Show. At Unfold, we tell stories that are raw, that are tender, and that peel layer by layer. So, similar storytelling is going to happen today at the studio as we are joined by Dyshni Sritharan, who is a trauma informed therapist and also the founder of Healing Cycle Therapy. So, like I said, Dyshni here today in our studio is a trauma-informed therapist. She also has lived that experience of pain and resilience, and she uses her experience along with her clinical training to help and support her clients to heal and come out of that pain and the cycle of trauma. Thank you so much, Dyshni, for joining us in the studio today. So, like I said, we are going to talk about trauma and a little bit of healing and the cycle around it. So I read when I was, reading about you that you have your own personal lived experience around trauma. So whatever you are comfortable touching upon, do you mind sharing a little bit so that we know what space you come from?
Yeah. So the reason why I became a therapist and came into this space is from my own childhood. So I was raised in a house full of love, but there was also a lot of pain. There was a lot of unspoken grief. I was raised by immigrants. They came to Canada from Sri Lanka because of the genocide and during the war time. And with that, they brought their dreams, they brought hope, sacrifice, but also a lot of pain, like I mentioned. So that pain got transferred over to me, and I also have a younger brother. So we lived a life of survival. My parents were living in survival mode. We were living in survival. And that's what brought me to where I am today. Survived all that, and now I'm here.
So today's episode here, we are talking about healing, but not as a straight line, but as a journey. So when we walk that path of healing as a journey, and then how the stories that we carry can be the stories that also set us free. So we are going to look into a few such stories and journey. So I read somewhere that you are a trauma-informed therapist, and you also give therapy in Tamil, your mother tongue. So how important it is to create that safe space around your client when you get into healing and therapy.
So it's important to have that safe space because a lot of the things that people are coming and talking about, sometimes they're talking about it for the first time. Sometimes they're saying these things out loud for the first time, even to themselves, right? So they need that safe space where they can feel seen, heard, and held. And I choose my own language because sometimes there's that stigma and sometimes there's no words to describe certain pain in the English language. And also culture. So I want a space where you don't have to explain your culture. You just come and you focus on healing.
And you feel understood.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Because when there is a culture, you see a culture difference a lot of time, like you said, you begin, before even you start talking about your trauma, you probably feel the need to explain yourself culturally because the person listening understands.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, that's I think beautiful. A lot of times, a lot of us in the family or in the community grow up becoming this strong one, right? So how much of impact emotionally that has in an individual when you try to put aside or suppress those emotions in the want of being the strong one, or probably the need of being the strong one?
So I often say those parts of you, it helped you to be where you are, right? So it was your coping. That's all you knew. But what happens is no one really checks in on you because you're the strong one, right? You have all the checkbox checked off. You're the one that everyone goes to. You have everything.
Provider.
You're the provider. And you take care of things, right? You take care of everyone else. So externally, you might feel successful, you're achieving, you're accomplishing, but what happens is there's that silent struggling internally. And usually what happens when people come to me is they mention that it starts off as a whisper and then it starts to get so loud that they can't ignore it anymore. And so those symptoms come up in your body, it comes up emotionally, physically, all of that.
Wow. And a lot of times when you talk about trauma, we talk about cycles of trauma, right? So what can that look like? Or say, have you heard of any misconceptions around the trauma and the cycles of trauma?
So cycles of trauma is basically stories and patterns and beliefs that we keep on repeating without choosing to. It's something that just happens automatically.
Okay.
And when we think of that, we can think of like generational wounds, right? So maybe you had your parents went like from my example, they came from war. So there was a lot of things where they were in survival. They didn't have time to think about what was going on.
Or
They just
address
had to,
that.
Yes, address that, feel their feelings, go through the motion. They just had to get out and come to safety. So because in that they didn't have time to deal with their emotions, they didn't teach me how to deal with my emotions. So I felt growing up that I can't show my emotions, that there's good emotions, there's bad emotions. And then that turned into a cycle because that's all we knew until someone says, no, we're going to turn this around.
And have to break that?
Yeah, so I say the first step is breaking the cycle, is where you acknowledge in yourself
that you have
that
trauma in you.
You have trauma in you, but also that you're going to change. It's going to stop with me. I'm not going to, move it forward. But then the second step, which I find that a lot of people, there's a misconception about, is healing the cycle. Healing the cycle means you have to go back and heal the parts of you that didn't have the time to be safe at that time to feel those feelings. So for sometimes, like you spoke about misconceptions, people think, oh, the past is the past, let go of the past, move on, let it go, don't talk about that, all of those things. But our present, it has been shaped by our past. We have to go there, we have to feel those things, we have to heal those things, and then you can move forward.
So acknowledging that we have the trauma or acknowledging that emotions is the first step, is what we are saying.
Yes.
Right? Okay. A lot of times even when I get into discussions about this or what we hear around, there is an understanding or you can let me know if that understanding is a misconception, that trauma has to be big events. It has to be loud, it has to be big, it has to be seen, it has to be very tangible. So what is it? Is it an understanding or a misconception? How would you
put
it?
So I think that's a big misconception. So there's what we call big T trauma and small T trauma. So this is known as chronic or relational trauma. So it's almost like little paper cuts. So it can be as big or small as like emotional neglect, getting bullied at school, not being able to be your authentic self. All these little things, they add up. And trauma always depends on not what happened to you, but what happened inside of you as a result of that trauma.
And how we react to what happened to us, does that also define how our trauma will look like or how long it'll stay? Like, for example, small things like, say, maybe people pleasing or overdoing something, right? So feeling the need to have a control. These can be looked at, if we ignore the underlying reason, can be looked at as something very positive, right? So, okay, somebody is trying to please and put their best foot forward, but that can come from a place of trauma where the person was neglected and never appreciated, right? So does how we react to that trauma and how our behavior after that also defines the type or the quality or the length or the life cycle of our trauma?
So what you're talking about is trauma responses. So you started to cope based on what you went through, right?
Absolutely.
And so when you start to heal, you look back and you look at these things like, and there's no place of shame. We're not doing it from a place of shame, right? People pleasing, overachieving, that sense of control. It's just that you helped me until this point, thank you, but now I'm going to choose how I move forward. Okay. So that's going to look like learning how to rest, allowing joy, trusting in relationships.
Okay. So now, especially, like you said, you're an immigrant, I'm an immigrant, and I think Canada is a country made in a long way, or in a bigger way, by immigrants, right? So especially in immigrant families, and more so in South Asian families. I belong to a South Asian group of immigrants. A lot of times, acknowledging mental trauma or acknowledging a trauma, or even the step of talking to a therapist is looked at as a stigma.
Yes.
So how do you see what you are doing to break that, or how has your journey been on this?
So starting with stories always. Like even when people say, I don't know how to tell my parents that I'm in therapy. I don't know how to tell my parents that I want therapy. Or even my friends. Some people can't even tell their friends. I always say start with stories. And if it's the type of relationship where you can't be fully honest, even if it's saying, my friend went to therapy and had a good time and this is what the therapist helped them with, I always say you're not trying to convince people, you're trying to plant seeds. So start small.
Yeah, I think in your example where you said they find it difficult to tell, but I've also seen cases where if I'm the person, I even find it difficult to tell myself and acknowledge and even go for a therapy.
Yep.
Right?
Yes.
So I think the stigma is so loud and so evident that once I go for therapy, telling my parents or friends is at least one step ahead. Where I've seen and where I've felt and heard is even your self-acknowledgement and telling yourself that, okay, I need therapy, I will go to therapy. I think that also still needs a lot of work is what I see. Are there any, now as a professional and clinically, that you have your clinical degree, do you see any signs of a trauma? Can you tell now when you look at a person from your experience or maybe most of the time you can, sometimes you can, but if you can, what are some signs?
So I try not to judge, but just in regards to, again, going back to those trauma responses where like on the outside, it might seem like good things, right? Like to society, it's like, oh, look, checkbox,
best behavior,
successful on paper, all of those things. But trouble like trusting other people, trouble slowing down. When you have a day off, it's hard to rest. Your mind is always working. Burnout, like burning out like constantly. It's not just like, every now and then, but burning out. And also not able to feel your feelings. There's this concept where it's intellectualizing your feelings. So a lot of, I find, high achieving people, successful people, or just, many people in general, are able to explain why they're feeling the way they're feeling. But when it comes down to feeling their feelings, that's where people most often struggle.
Okay. So, I think it's been a very eye-opening conversation even for me, and we'll get into a short break and we'll get right back where we left, because I think, again, I tell my viewers through this show of 30 minutes, we are not trying to bring any solution to problems that are around us. Our main motive is to be able to stir those conversations and pave a path for starting those conversations around us. And I think that will be the motive of today's episode as well. So thank you for staying with us so far. We'll get into a short commercial break and we'll be right back with you. We are in conversation with Dyshni Sritharan right here at the Awaz Entertainment. It's your show. Thank you so much.
अगर आपको दुबई या मिडल ईस्ट नुमा जेवरात की तलाश है, तो आपको दूर जाने की बिल्कुल जरूरत नहीं। आज ही हमारे मिसिसागा रिजवे स्टोर तशरीफ लाइए, अल करम ज्वेलर्स। हमारे पास सोने के बेहतरीन कंगन, कड़े, झुमके, हार और सोने के सेट्स भी दस्तयाब हैं। शादी हो या मेहंदी या कोई भी फंक्शन, आपकी पसंद के तमाम जेवरात आपको हमारे स्टोर में मौजूद मिलेंगे। आज ही हमारे स्टोर पर तशरीफ लाइए, अल करम ज्वेलर्स, 3465 प्लैटिनम ड्राइव, यूनिट 99, मिसिसागा, या फिर कॉल करें 905-828-0009। अल करम ज्वेलर्स, फरमाइश आपकी, गारंटी हमारी।
welcome back. Before the break, we were in conversation with Dyshni Sritharan and we were talking about trauma and healing cycles. And Dishni's mission is very simple. She believes in saying that you don't have to carry it all alone. And she's right. We need to start having conversations and we need to start telling ourselves that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to acknowledge if we have a trauma and if we need help. So yes, Dishni, right before we went to the break, we were talking about how the stigma around the therapy and acknowledging of trauma comes in. To a lot of our viewers, it might feel like I'm not ready for therapy. Right? I'm not yet ready for. So what would you tell those people who know they might need, who see the need to, but they don't feel ready yet? What are the few things that they can exercise or use as a first step with themselves?
So I'd start off with maybe finding spaces where you can find quiet time, whether that's in nature, whether that's the first 5 minutes in the morning, and just starting that relationship with what those thoughts are that you're having. So I find that a lot of times we have that inner critic that is, sometimes might be stopping you from getting the help that you need, sometimes scared, you don't know. There's a lot of unknown, uncertainty.
A lot of noise around you.
Yes, there's a lot of noise. Society, yourself, your parents, your culture, all of those things. So first, finding that space to kind of quiet things down a little bit. And journaling. Journaling can be one way. I know in our community sometimes people say, I don't want other people to find out. I say journal it and just flush it down the toilet, rip it up into pieces. It's the act of actually taking it out.
Yeah.
And that, I would say, is a start.
Okay. Now, therapy can feel very overwhelming sometimes because because you're already going through so much, and being able to acknowledge that and being able to make yourself ready.
Yeah.
Right? We spoke about people who are not ready. Then now you're finally brought yourself to feeling ready, right? So it can be very overwhelming. So for a person who's going through that process and it is that at that stage, how do they find what is the right kind of therapy for them, or how do they find a right therapist for them? Because that can be a make and break. I have, suppose if I'm the subject in the example, I finally made myself ready to go through the healing, and if I'm not going to find the right person, it can, worsen it, or I might completely lose faith on even the process of healing. So what's the right way to find the right kind of therapist for yourself?
Yeah.
If there is any.
Yeah. So it depends for everyone else. But the first thing to remember is that more than what the therapist does, like the modalities that we call it, think more about how are you going to respond, like have a relationship with this person. So fit is very important, because if you don't feel safe with this therapist, you're not going to open up, right? Then it becomes someone that you have to perform for, and you have to say the right things and all those things. You're already doing that on the outside,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
So you don't need a therapist to do that. So I would always say, there's bios, there's videos, you can check on Instagram, but also make use of these free consultations.
Okay.
So most therapists will provide either 15 minutes to 30-minute consultations. And in that time, it's not only about learning what the therapist can do for you, but also, are they going to be the right therapist for you? Ask questions.
Okay. I think this one is very tangible, and I think, very makes sense that you use that 30 minutes of free consultation to have that sense. Right?
Yes.
Okay, now in all this conversation, we spoke about others, your clients, society. You are receiving so much from so many of your clients, and you're listening, right? You're being the support for so many. In all of this, how does Dyshni take care of herself and her mental health?
I think it's very important for me to take care of myself. So self-care is very important, because if I don't fill my cup, I'm not serving from serving from burnout. I'm serving empty. So I always say, if I'm full, what you're getting from me is the overflow, right? Yeah. And that just comes from a very good space. Yes. So I try to take that very seriously. So that looks like nature. Spend a lot of time in nature. I do walk and talk therapy for that reason, because it's very healing. Journaling, meditation, my own therapist, all of those things. I feel like it's my duty and responsibility as someone that's serving the community.
Yeah. Okay, that's amazing. Now, a lot of times we hear people say, if I want to talk, why do I need a therapist? I have a friend to talk to, I have my mother to talk to, I have my sister to talk to, why would you talk to them, right? So, you as a therapist, if and you can tell us in a very simple word the difference between talking to a friend versus talking to a therapist.
Well, now you also have ChatGPT.
Oh yes, so true, so true. Talking to ChatGPT.
So I always say, even ChatGPT, it's a tool, right? It's that extra. And I also understand that therapy isn't accessible, right? So sometimes you might just want that person or ChatGPT who's right there. But the difference is that like a friend is able to hold space for you, or maybe not, right? Maybe they're trying to fix it for you. They're trying to give you solutions. They're trying to tell you, be positive.
Nicer things,
yeah,
right?
They're trying to tell you things to make you feel better.
Mhm.
Whereas a therapist, we're trained to hold space for those heavy feelings, and also we're not projecting. When you come into that space, it's all about you. When you start talking about your mom, your dad, your partner, we bring it back to, how is this making you feel? How are you relating to the situation, right? So it's very, well, how I practice, it's very individualized and personalized care, which I find you can't always get from.
Yeah, I mean, yes, there definitely is, like how if you have some ailment and you're going to Google it and get a medicine, or versus going to see a
Yes,
medical practitioner, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Somebody who's in therapy, suppose if I am the person in therapy, how do I know that it's working for me, or when is the right time for me to switch the therapist, or probably stop the therapy?
These are all conversations that you can actually have with your therapist, right? Like if you're starting, like sometimes people will come in, they had this certain focus, they had these goals. I always say it's my job to work myself out of being a therapist, right? Is that I choose to give you the tools, the techniques, so you're using it in our sessions as well as outside, right? So I would say maybe when you're starting to feel that your voices aren't so critical, it's more compassionate, it's more kinder, you're able to set boundaries. And I always say, in our communities, you're still going to have guilt. The guilt is always going to be there with boundaries. You're never going to get to a point where you're setting boundaries without guilt. But it's a journey, it's a process. So with that, and then you mentioned, how do you know when it's time to stop,
Yeah.
or like
Switch.
Or, yeah. It all depends on how you're feeling. Like if you feel like it's the fit between you and the therapist. Are they hearing you? Are they seeing you? Are they able to make you think in different ways? Are they challenging you? That's another thing, right? Like a lot of people have told me that in the past, therapists were just listening to them. They're like, I don't want to pay someone to just sit there and listen. But then you also want to tell the therapist, right? Like, hey, challenge me. I'm okay to be challenged. So ask for what you want. It's okay, because you are paying for that service.
Does okay, maybe from your journey or from some your client experience, what are the tangible differences that you see in a client when they walk out, and can there be any tangible tools for me to feel, okay, I think this is working, or I'm feeling better?
They're able to rest without feeling guilty. Occasionally, there might, like, maybe I could be a little bit more productive, but they've slowed down. Their life has slowed down, where it's not that hustle. And that's a choice that they make, right? They're like, I want to get out of that hustle and be able to enjoy my life, enjoy the things around me. And also, sometimes feeling joy and happiness is the scariest thing you can do for many people. So sometimes what happens is something good happens, and all of a sudden you try to shut it down, you sabotage it, you push it away because it's so scary. So what I try to do is try to help you kind of be in that zone for as long as possible, and
feel
that
comfortable.
Takes time. Yeah.
When it comes to trauma, or say cycles or generational trauma, is being able to stop blaming somebody else for what happened also a part of it? But a lot of times I see, people shift that, rather than being able to go in and reconcile with what happened, live through that journey, like how we touched upon in the beginning of the episode, blaming somebody else for what happened. So does the process of therapy also involve facing that and being able to stop blaming somebody else for it, for an emotional or whatever kind of trauma it is.
Yeah, it gets to the place of like you focus on what's within your control, right? Like if you're focusing on blaming other people, you're always going to be
exactly
there, right? And like it's just going to repeat that cycle. You come into therapy, you're like, I want to stop that, right? So you focus on, okay, this hurt me. I'm going to validate those feelings. I don't need them to tell me, you know, they caused me this pain. I already know because I'm the one who felt it, right? So you get to a place of accountability, self-awareness, self-responsibility, forgiveness, self-compassion. And it's like the things that you get in therapy, no one can take it away from you. So it's a true gift that you give to yourself.
When you're trying to break the stigma or probably give a therapy, something that you see very repetitive and we find it, okay, this one is very deep-rooted and is challenging when it comes to therapy.
I would say the chronic guilt. Being raised as like children of immigrants, because there is that added layer of sacrifice. Your parents came to this country, they had their dreams, and they were in survival mode. You get to thrive, but you know, oftentimes you're living life and you're like, they didn't have the opportunities that I have, so then that brings you guilt. So it's like guilt in like so many different.
And I didn't have to see the hardships that they had to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that chronic guilt is something that's
very, very difficult to break. Okay. Okay, now let's, it's been, I mean, very, very constructive talk, but I also think, okay, let's loosen up a bit and then we'll get into probably, one word, quick answer with Dyshni.
Yeah.
So when people talk of therapy, what do you want people to associate therapy with, like one word?
Liberating.
Wow, okay, that's beautiful. Liberating. It should honestly be, I think, yes. Something that you once believed about healing and you no more do.
Does it have to be one word or I can?
No, yeah,
Okay.
sure, quick, yeah.
A sentence?
Yeah.
I used to think healing was something that you do like individually. You go in, you see a therapist, you do your thing, you heal your stuff, and then you get
Come out.
and you go back into your life. But I think now I'm starting to see to include community as well, that you don't only have to heal by yourself. You can heal with other people so you can feel less alone. So trying to look at it like a continuum. Maybe you start off individually, but
you
to
can
have
take
that,
others along.
Yes.
Okay, that's beautiful. One thing you wish every parents taught their kids as a technique or a tool?
That all feelings are valid, and teaching your kids that your feelings can be your friends. So almost like messengers. When anger comes up, what is it trying to tell you? When joy is coming up, what is it trying to tell you? And just treating them like friends and visitors. They come and they go.
And are there good feelings and bad feelings, or is just feelings?
Just feelings.
Just feelings, right? Yeah. Yes, I think that's something I also feel that it's important to teach kids, because the moment they feel one of those feelings which are bucketed as bad feeling, they shut themselves down and they feel they cannot express those feelings, right? So, and how does that come is because we have taught them to label their feelings into good and bad.
Good and bad, and there's no such thing.
So true. If you could write a post-it or a note reminder for somebody, for them to have on their mirror and see every day, what one liner or, something that you would love to have there?
You are more than enough. And I truly believe that. I find that a lot of clients that over the years, when it comes down to it, the deepest pain for a lot of people is not feeling good enough. So,
or not feeling enough also sometimes,
enough.
Right? Yeah, not feeling enough.
And that's why I say more than enough, because once you start to heal, there's all these noises and things that were, layered on top of you, but deep down and, overall, you are enough.
Okay, that's beautiful. And for you, like in your journey of giving therapy and healing, do you think there is something more that you have not touched upon, or something that's still unfolding in your journey? Is there anything?
So I would say, like I mentioned, like the community piece, is that you don't have to heal alone. You can heal with other people, because when I'm seeing clients, they're saying the same thing. And oftentimes I'm thinking, I wish I could just,
Make
get
everybody
you
sit together.
and just say this. And I've done it. I do healing circles. And, sometimes for me, I get the goosebumps when someone says something and they all just go, whoa.
I thought it was only me.
I thought it was just me. They'll talk about how things are at home, how things were in their childhood. And it just brings them together.
Ooh. You were right.
Yeah.
So, okay, having said that, yes, would you want to quickly now, almost nearing the end of the show, quickly touch upon few techniques that you swear by or you practice in your practice?
Mm-hmm. You want to try it together?
Okay, sure.
So it's called the grounding It's a grounding senses technique. So right now in this room, can you name me 5 red things?
5 red things.
Yeah.
There's flower. Yeah, the light turns red sometimes when it's about time, and I think that's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the reason why this works is it gets you out of your head and it gets you in your environment.
Concentrate.
And so when you're looking for these things, and I always, this is a quick one, you choose any color, any amount of number. It can be 3, 5, whatever it is. But also the technique is also to use your head and move around. Because when you're moving around, that's a signal to your body that you're safe. Because if you weren't safe, you're not going to be moving around. You're just going straight, right? So,
okay. That's I think beautiful. Thank you so much, Dyshni, for your openness, and 2 for the amazing work that you're doing, and then for reminding all of us that healing is possible. It is possible for us to go through that process of healing, rediscover ourselves, and find that courage to even restart if it's needed, right?
Yes.
I think these conversations are very important, and I'm glad that we are having today. I hope this also becomes a start of having this conversation in many more families or viewers or groups who's watching us. And so Dyshni is a professional healer. You can reach out to her on her social media. She goes by the name of her brand, which is Healing Cycle Therapy. And thank you so much, Dyshni. I think this episode, more than anything else, for me personally, was very, very calming and grounding. And I feel a lot of peace at the end of the episode, and a lot of conversations that I had not had before this happened today, and I hope a lot of you feel the same about the whole process of healing after you watch this episode. Thank you so much for being with us, and you are watching It's Your Show, the episode Unfold, with Dyshni Sritharan, and this show is all about finding your voice, where all of our guests has theirs and all of our viewers find theirs. Hope you have a journey of healing and you find closure and you find healing in your journey. Thank you so much.